Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I thought rather than parrot back the bios that are on the site, I'd go ahead and let each panelist just say maybe one sentence, two sentences about themselves, and then they can go ahead and begin reading. I did want to preface with a couple of opening remarks here, and then we'll leap right into the read. So this is Trauma, Tresses, and Truth, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narrative. This was an AWP panel that we did back in March, and we are reprising it here for you today. In her essay, Is Your Hair Political?, Audre Lorde explains how an immigration officer objected to her dreadlocks. Natural hair, whether braids, afros, locks, or other styles, has always been political. Writing, aka narrative healing, about life experiences impacted by our hair illuminates both the absurdity of trying to enforce white hair care grooming standards on African American women and the muted but invasive means by which society shames natural hair from infancy through adulthood. I am Lyzette Wanzer. I'm the panelist convener, the panel convener. I'm a San Francisco writer, writer's coach, and creative writing instructor. I teach a lot of professional development workshops for writers, and I write everything except poetry, although I did just get a poem published, but I really don't write that much poetry anymore. And the piece that I am going to read for you is an essay, and this one is called Twisted. It's an excerpt from a larger piece called Twisted. It was just my third day on the job. I was still learning to use the fax machine. A coworker who'd been on PTO my first 2 days appeared in my office, introduced himself via nut-cracking handshake. He made small talk, then business speak, back to small talk. Only so much to be said about the weather, the traffic, and the mayor. A column of silence rose between us. His gaze alighted on my head. How did you get your hair like that? He reached across my desk and ran his fingers through my hair. I gripped his arm, mid-arc, squeezed it just hard enough to signal my spirit, and flung it away. If you want to touch my hair, you ask first. And when you do ask, I'll say no. Shock and puzzlement leaped through his features. He flushed several shades of red, pivoted, exited. 1980s. Braids and dreadlocks are prohibited in the workplace at Atlanta Urban League, Chicago Regency Hyatt, Downtown DC Marriott Hotel, Washington DC Metropolitan Police Department. In the US Army, African Americans could not wear braids until 2002, and dreadlocks, still not allowed. From Lisa Jones, Bulletproof Diva, 1994. Everything I know about American history, I learned from looking at Black people's hair. It's the perfect metaphor for the African experiment, the toll of slavery and the cost of remaining. It's all in the hair. Do you wash those? She, a fellow strap hanger, blonde, on the Uptown Lexington Avenue Express. Wash what? Your braids. These aren't braids. Yeah, they are. No, they're not. What do you call them? Dreads. Dreads? As in dreadlocks. Do you wash them? Of course I wash them. I didn't know you were Rasta. I didn't either.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name. I can't remember the year. I recall she was in Boston, and I know it was the late 1990s. She tended the front desk of a Tony Hotel, the kind of place with pearly shampoo bottles in the bath, sumptuous pressed robes on the door hook, pillowed gold foil Godiva squares. She wore a new style of ornate braids. Guests traced her glimmering place with their eyes. They complimented her. Management did not. Management was alarmed. Management, in fact, demanded that she remove the braids, return to her perm, a style befitting the post at her lacquered mahogany station. From an ad in the New York Age, 1919. Race men and women may easily have straight, soft, long hair by simply applying Kyle's hairdressing. In a short time, all your kinky, snarly, ugly, curly hair becomes soft, silky, smooth, straight, long, and easily handled, brushed, or combed. The United States Air Force has a regulation, AFI 36 2903, dress and personal appearance of Air Force personnel, which in part discriminates against African American women serving in the Air Force. The code was recently updated to include a ban on dreadlocks. Female personnel with neat, clean, professional, well-kept hair are being forced to choose between cutting their hair and treating it with chemicals to conform with this regulation. This leaves women with hair that is in no means a distraction or a detriment to their duties, subject to disciplinary action. My stylist, the soothsayer, sugarcoater, not. She pulled no punches, warned me outright about the beginner phase, the in-between phase, the neither here nor there yet phase, the need for patience. She ushered me in one January, and we began. While we began, she shared stories about schisms among stylists who wear natural hair and those wearing weaves and perms. Within the natural collective, additional risks cracked along client lines. If you service natural clients but wear a straightened style yourself, you were a preachy poser whose hands were out of sync. Ms. Boston was fired. She left her braids in. Dismissal followed. She sued under Title VII. I can't remember her name, and she wouldn't know mine, but the night her story aired, I began growing out my relaxer. I stood in solidarity with her, sister to sister, shoulder to shoulder, across the frequency, yoking the miles. From the Online Etymology Dictionary. Dread plus locks. The style supposedly based on that of East African warriors, so called from the dread they presumably aroused in beholders. Also has a sense of fear of the Lord. My stylist began my dreads with a short Spartan crop of Nubian twists. Strangers, all races, on streets and in trains, in cafes, on elevators, commented. I see you're just getting started. That'll take forever. Did you know you can get instant ones? There were many paths to dreadlocks, including the immediacy of instant techniques. I wanted not just the style, but the journey, the quest. Shortcut methods would excuse and exclude any trial attending the passage. I needed the complete compass. From John T. Malloy, New Dress for Success, 1988. Blacks selling merchandise or services to whites should not wear Afro hairstyles. Rastafarians or others with dreadlocks made eye contact with me, nodded, smiled, sometimes spoke, in bookstores, post offices, theaters, street corners, shops, trains, festivals, restaurants, libraries, galleries, parks, airports, clubs, and at Kinko's. Assumptions spurred their spontaneity. My political, philosophical, spiritual stance, they never asked. United States District Court, New York. Renee Rogers et al. Plaintiff versus American Airlines, Incorporated. R.L. Crandall, President of American Airlines. The case. Plaintiff is a Black woman who seeks damages, injunctive, and declaratory relief against enforcement of an American Airlines grooming policy that prohibits employees from wearing an all-natural hairstyle. For weeks, My coworker distanced himself from me until the day we boarded the same crowded elevator. Our eyes met across the grid of heads and hats and helmets. Neither of us blinked. He gave a small nod, small smile, touched the brim of his derby. I nodded back, sans smile. When we alighted, we walked single file in silence. As we passed the vending machine, he spoke. Nice day today. Yes, it is. Supposed to rain tomorrow. Is it? What do you make of Giuliani's plan for Times Square? I think it sucks. I agree. It'll turn the place into a Six Flags for tourists. I hope not. Worse than the Vegas Strip. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Well, here we are. Another day, another dollar. He dashed ahead to open the door for me. Thank you. You bet. Is it today the building's ice cream social? Think so. You going? He spoke to my back as I headed for my office. Maybe. Depends how much work I get done. I'm going. I slid the key into my door lock. Might be a good way for you to meet other tenants in the building. That's a thought. I turned the knob. Well, have a good one. You too. I shut my door. From Harriet Cole in Hair Story. It takes care and attention and time to handle natural hair. Something we have lost from our African culture are the rituals of health and beauty and taking time to anoint ourselves. And the first way we lost it was in our hair. Thank you. Who's next?
All right, I will go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelechi Ubozoh. I'm a mental health consultant advocate in the Bay Area, and my book with LD Green, We've Been Too Patient, Voices from Radical Mental Health, was released last summer from North Atlantic and Penguin Random House. So I'll just go ahead and get started and make sure I time myself. Beauty is Pain, Hair Story. Chapter 1, Hot Comb with a Side of Charred Ear. You're not too ugly, she said, and that was high praise coming from my cousin Julia. Thick, long, wavy hair framed her creamy complexion. Her daddy was Italian, mine Nigerian. When she listened to her mother's advice about avoiding direct sunlight, Julia sometimes passed for white. However, she always passed the brown paper bag test, an unfortunate part of our collective Black American history. If your skin was darker than a brown paper bag, you would be excluded from jobs, fraternities, sororities, and the Black elite. This was a test I would never pass. Julia studied my hair and face attentively. I know how to make you prettier, she said. I eagerly awaited what she could do with the sad canvas. Our grandmother was out at the market, and we were alone in her large Long Island home. Julia's father was a costume designer and hairdresser for the New York Theater and used the basement of Grandma's house to store hundreds of wigs and glamorous clothing. After several moments of digging, Julia unearthed a short bobbed wig, most likely from the Dreamgirls production, and squeezed it onto my head. Then she snuck into our grandmother's vanity and pulled out her makeup compact. I closed my eyes as she applied the nearly white concealer and powder to my brown face. When I opened my eyes, I was greeted by a horrifying powder cake face. Chunks of foundation fell into the sink. I cried as Julia laughed at the sight of the small melted monster. I was about 8 when I learned the world thought I was ugly. Though I had my suspicions, which were confirmed through my misadventures with Julia, store clerks of every race and ethnicity snuck her extra lollipops, and little boys, easily disgusted by little girls, broke character and offered her big, toothless smiles. I was invisible. But looking back, I did not have the language or concept of colorism or internalized racism to really understand these deeply rooted psyche experiences. More than ever, I wanted to look like Julia. Her life appeared perfect. It was the early 90s, and the beautiful biracial songstress Mariah Carey was climbing to fame. Mariah was my hero, and Julia could have been her mini-me. After the white face incident, I realized that nothing was changing this brown skin, but I could do something about my hair. See, I had this thick, comb-breaking Nigerian hair, and getting my hair done was a daily fight with my mama, involving her chasing me around a living room while I screamed, "No, please don't." The only way I could ever even let her touch it if I was seated in front of Popeye the Sailor Man, mesmerized by the power of spinach. After the hair revolution was won, Mom would sprinkle my face with kisses and tell me that black was beautiful. I'd curl up to her side and fall asleep as she told me the story of Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African folktale alternative to Cinderella. The characters looked like me, with deep golden brown skin and cornrows. My mother tried to instill confidence and pride within myself, but there were messages much louder than hers. I was done with braids and cornrows and worked up the courage to ask if I could get my hair straightened. Mom said I was too young for chemicals, but I could have the hot comb. Let me tell you about the hot comb. The hot comb is a black beauty torture device powered by blinding white heat. The hairdresser in question must run the sharp tooth comb that feels like burning coal through thick, kinky curls and not burn you too badly. The more you moved, the more likely you'd have a black batch of burnt skin as a souvenir. And for some reason, no matter how talented the hairdresser, no one could quite figure out how not to burn the top of your ears. Mine were always crusty and black after a long hot comb session. I'm sitting in the chair of my cousin, Miss Shirley's kitchen, with a hot comb to my head. Sizzle, pop, hiss. "You're so tender-headed," Miss Shirley complained. "Stop squirming." Anyone with a tender head would cry at the way she snatched up my micro curls, tightly pull my hair back, and I hold my breath, trying to sit and hopefully avoiding a bad burn. Sizzle. Beauty is pain, beauty is pain, beauty is pain. I whisper this mantra repeatedly. It is also possible that trying to look like someone other than yourself is painful. Chapter 2, The French Jerry Curl. Shirley Temple and Bojangles are problematically tap dancing across my television screen. I scroll uncomfortably without knowing why, but what catches my eyes and interest is her golden tresses. Shirley Temple looks like an animated, breathing baby doll, angelic and kind. I'm enamored with the bouncing, chunky ringlets that frame her face. One thing is clear, I need Shirley Temple curls. However, at 9, I'm not the best communicator. Somehow I've internalized the children should be seen and not heard and would rather listen than talk with adults. My nervous words come out in jumbled heaps, and under no circumstance will I ever correct or talk back to an adult. This is why and how the great miscommunication of 1994 occurred. I'd had it with the hot comb. My scalp had become a patchy black forest of tiny burns that I continued to pick out despite my mom's scolding, "Stop scratching." The straightened hair only lasted a day or two at best. It was impossible to avoid moisture as an elementary school kid. This meant no sweat, no pool, no water guns, no water balloons, and definitely no rain. And since I hadn't figured out a way to control weather or hateful boys, my hair frequently was in a state of frizz and had a bird's nest quality to it at sometimes. I told my mother I wanted curls that would stay bouncy no matter what. I dreamed of being dainty and feminine with satin soft baby curls. This time we left the kitchen in search of a hairstylist. We found Miss Holly in a huge hair salon where older Black women sat under rows of hair dryers combing through Jet and Ebony magazine. I was the youngest person there by far. Searching through photographs and stacks, I pulled out the pictures of Black women who had a similar style. "I want curls like this," I said with my head down. Miss Holly shoos the pictures and said, "Hold on to the word curl. What you need, honey, is a wave nouveau. It's new, it's French, and you'll be able to keep your curls fresh." Miss Holly is eager to get me in and out of the chair. I quietly ask if I'll look like the pictures, but she doesn't respond. Before I can blink, I'm plopped into a swivel chair and getting my hair washed in a large black basin. 2 hours later, what I get is the Jerry curl. Popular in the 1980s, the Jerry curl is a juicy, glossy, wet curled style. Think Michael Jackson Thriller album or Samuel L. Jackson Pulp Fiction. When I turn around to see myself, I try not to cry. Moist curls hang around my face, dripping onto my shirt and getting everything damp. I don't look like anyone's baby doll, more like a sad used mop. "Don't you look pretty?" my mom and Miss Holly beam over me. I force a smile and swear that I love it. To maintain the Wave Nouveau style, I sleep every night with a plastic cap over my head and apply a lot of curl activator, a pungent spray that really lingers. Think rotten egg. I wear a piece of cotton that wraps around my head to keep the juices on my hair, but often the cold liquid ooze comes down my back, staining my clothes and waking me up in the middle of the night if I sleep at a certain angle. Eventually, my mom receives very angry phone calls from other mothers after sleepovers where I've forgotten to wear my cap, but would leave a greasy residue and destroy pillows, blankets, couch cushions, you name it. Worst of all, the chemicals make my hair highly flammable, and thankfully, no one, especially not me, was hurt during my birthday party when I leaned a little too close to the birthday cake candles and caused a minor spark to hop onto my head. My emergency room educated mother quickly killed the almost flame before anyone besides me could be traumatized. I highly recommend having a doctor in the family. What's with the jerry curl? Boys would yell. It's French, damn it, I screamed defiantly. At least I had my pride. Chapter 3, The Little Chop. There is no big chop story. I didn't one day gather all my courage, stare in the mirror at my overly processed broken hair and said, I'm done. I didn't take shiny, sharp shears and slash the remnants of pain and oppression that manifest as control and chemicals. I didn't liberate my locks by any traditional means. I had a little chop. I let my hair grow out of the past. Over time, it became long, thick, and natural. Today, it is chemical-free, but it wears many masks and lives in constant fluctuation and transformation. My first love told me he was not attracted to me when I wore braids. He liked my hair straight and thought I was prettier that way. Being young and in love makes you do things you are likely to question later. While we dated, I refused to wear braids, even though I was dealing with Georgia heat and a lot of hair maintenance to keep him happy. He fed into the same garbage about Black beauty not being real and needing to match some sort of European standards. I later discovered the truth. I was pretty, period. The braids returned and he left. Sometimes my hair is strategic. One white colleague said to me, "You look so much more professional with your hair like that." He was referring to my change from braids and straight hair weave. I silently cursed him and realized the truth. I was more likely to get a call back for jobs if my hair appeared straight. So during job interviews, I wore weaves and laid down my edges to get the gel into the door. Once inside, I'd unmask my natural hair and let it breathe. I'd wear braids, cornrows, and whatever style I was feeling. I soon decided that working somewhere that would judge you and hire you based upon your appearance is feeding into white supremacy and unlikely a healthy choice for the long run. So I quit the job, but quietly assessed my external treatment per hairstyle. When I wear Marley faux locks, men are far more respectful. I receive less catcalls. However, there are assumptions about what I should eat, no pork, only veggies, and how much I should smoke. A lot. And how radical I am. Shouldn't you be organizing something? Oftentimes, an ally, a curious bystander, or someone with just no home training will try to touch my hair. For the record, no, you cannot touch my hair. My hair is a fluid choice, my choice. Sometimes I like wearing bouncy curls that tend to take off ears and brighten my mood. I also like wearing colorful braids that highlight my cheekbones. When I need more strength, I look to locks to charge me with power and queen-like moves. My hair is political. It brings me joy, and my style is my choice. I don't sign it a label of good or bad. We have a complicated history and relationship, but I'm working towards healing it in my way and on my terms. Thank you.
That was amazing. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine. I am the East Coast representative. I'm a Philly-based writer, educator, and poet. I'm the founder of the nonprofit Urgent 365 and a contributing writer for Mogul Millennial. I also want to point out that yesterday was my lockversary, so 1 year locked as of May 9th, which is like really exciting. And all right, here we go. The working title for this is Power Struggle. Comedian Paul Mooney said it best in Chris Rock's Good Hair documentary. If your hair is relaxed, white people are relaxed. If your hair is nappy, they aren't happy. This thinking is the reason many Black girls grow up with wash day stories laced with the pain of altering unacceptable natural coils. We've internalized outside perceptions and weaved them into the fabric of our own identities. Our hair, like our lives, has always been dissected, policed, and in need of taming, leaving us with skewed views of ourselves, our beauty, and our value. In 6th grade, my inquisitive blonde-haired teacher called me to the front of the class. This was a predominantly white Christian school where I was one of a handful of Black students. I consented. My braided curls, freshly done by mother the night before, dangled well past my shoulders and bounced with each step. I stood next to her, facing all the students from the front of the room, as she pinched one of my curls between her thumb and pointer finger and questioned, "Is this real?" In this moment, my teacher and I were physically next to each other, but existed worlds apart, separated by assumptive oceans. What could I say? Answering no would admit that I was flawed and in need of enhancements to blend in. And clearly, I wasn't blending. I lied. Yes. This is your hair? It seemed much shorter yesterday. Yes, it is. I can't recall if I said this to her or the other students, but I spread a story about me having a product called Hair Grow Fast. Admission to weave was like conceding to every stereotype and perception of Black hair, and I refused to be the bald-headed Black girl. I internalized. I'm not sure if it was the question itself or her audacity to ask me publicly that offended me most. There was a comfort in dissecting me. I was the subject of the day's lesson without any approval. I still can't explain what public inquiry does to a girl. Suddenly, parts of you are no longer solely yours. My hair was something to defend. I had to lie about it, contain it, justify it. I could do anything but wear it because someone always had something to say. When we say Black hair is political, I prefer to borrow writer and activist Muzamba Hayama's definition from her Untangling the Knots essay. She states, quote, "Conversations about Black women's hair are necessarily political. By political, I mean involving both power struggle and negotiations," end quote. In many ways, starting with our hair, we are asked to perform identities for the comfort of those around us, specifically those in power. Our performance is too often an expected conforming to rules and standards that were created to uphold an exclusionary norm. Last May, I decided to lock my hair. This was a personal decision, much like anyone else who decides to color, cut, or style their hair in a more permanent way. Personally, I find locks to be much more fitting of my active lifestyle. However, in making this choice, I am subjecting myself to an even greater power struggle than the one I experienced in 6th grade. I placed myself in the box with Chastity Jones, a young woman in Alabama who interviewed for a job and received an offer with the expectation that she would cut her locks. When Chastity inquired why, she was told by the HR manager that they tend to get messy. Not that yours are, but you know. What exactly do we know? We know that Chastity's job was rescinded because she refused to comply. We know that locks are historically a hairstyle of those from the African diaspora. We know that by hiding behind race-neutral grooming policies that require a business professional image where excessive hairstyles and unusual colors are unacceptable, we are covertly saying that the acceptable image is one where Black women are expected to negotiate and conform. That is what we know. Sadly, Chastity's story moved forward in a 6-year court battle ending in a 2016 ruling that upheld the banning of dreadlocks, just like the ones I'm wearing today, in the workplace. Our hair is not our own. It is another part of us that is justifiably policed. The court stance was that while hairstyles are culturally associated with race, they are not immutable physical characteristics. In other words, as Black people, we have the capacity to alter our hair and conform. Conforming is one of my earliest hair memories. If you ask any Black woman about the infamous wash day, you're likely to hear a story about sitting in the kitchen. And note, it's called wash day because it's a process. The goal was to look as far from natural as humanly possible, because that is truly what was meant by getting your hair done. Wash day was a baptism. All baptisms into Black womanhood begin with a cleansing. We bend down into gushing faucet water and rise up with the shriveled bush. I would stare in the mirror, identifying a picture to always remain hidden. No one can see me like this, I told myself. The only image of hair like mine on TV was women on plantations, working the field or fighting for freedom. Whenever I saw my natural hair in the mirror, I saw those women too. I too belonged in a field. My hair was fighting for freedom. My self-talk began there. But more than me, the world seemed to hold the same perspective. Black hair, my hair, was short, untamed, and a sign of inferior status. And for that reason, I had to conform. The most dreadful part of wash day was the aftermath. I'd sit by the stove while Mom placed the metal comb on the gas burner. As if blow drying my bush wasn't stressful enough with all the tugging, tangles, and heat, it was time to press it out. Our Blackness had to be contained. Mom always took the hot comb fresh from the stove and sat it on the folded paper towel for momentary cooling. Starting with the shortest, peasy strands in the back of my head, she picked up the comb, blew it, and raked through. I sat cringing internally because doing so outwardly meant getting burned. This was the process of looking pretty. Squirming in the kitchen, fearing the sizzling straightening comb and waiting for it to end. There was no other option. My hair was unmanageable and no one could see me like this. Spoken or unspoken, our mothers pressed out more than our hair. They burned into our minds a new understanding of self. We were only good enough to be accepted if we made adjustments, if we did something to our hair, if we conformed. I didn't understand the impact of these internalizations until my college years when I finally made the commitment to see myself as beautiful. I started wearing my natural hair, and even if I didn't feel attractive, I trained my brain to equate my textured hair with beauty. Truth is, in my American story, I rarely get to see myself through my own eyes because I'm constantly forced to view myself from the perspective of others. W.E.B. Du Bois will call this dilemma double consciousness. In his popular book, The Souls of Black Folks, written in 1903, he says, quote, "It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two thoughts, two warring ideals in one dark body," end quote. When I think of the fight to see my hair as normal, acceptable, and attractive, I think of these words. What appears to be a simple, mutable characteristic is really the extension of a deeply rooted tension. Our hair is an entry point into our world. It represents a fight to be seen as human rather than other, to exist without policing, and to live without conforming. I truly believe our hair, like our lives, makes others uncomfortable, and that discomfort is a burden we have carried for too long. It is not our job. At this point in my life, I choose to wear my hair in ways that will give my future daughter the freedom to see, love, and accept her natural coils. I haven't quite figured out how I will teach her to navigate teachers like mine or unfair laws, but if Paul Mooney was right about the nappiness and relaxation of our hair, I will make sure my daughter knows that she will make some white people very unhappy. Yet, that will never be a reason to conform.
Thank you, Jasmine. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Let's see. Adrienne?
Hi, you want me to go next? Okay. Judy, you're muted. So I'll go ahead and go. Hi everyone, I'm Adrienne Oliver. I am a poet, educator, and writer living in Oakland. And I'm actually going to share a presentation with you guys about my hair journey. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Now we can.
Okay. So the title of my essay is Fro Fatigue and Other 4C Woes. H&M's fall 2019 ad campaign debacle points to a clear need for them to consult somebody's Black mama before they ever put together another ad featuring a Black child. In January 2018, the company came under fire for its Coolest Monkey in the Jungle sweatshirt advertisement featuring a young Black boy. Just shy of 2 years later, once again, H&M received more backlash, this time for the way a Black girl's hair was styled, or not styled in this instance. With recovery from the last scandal still in diapers, the company was back to crawling itself out of an accidental insensitivity fiasco. As Black Twitter and YouTube vloggers flurried with commentary, I had some time to think about the attention given to my own tresses over my 41 years. No doubt, countless hours have been spent on how to style my hair and what the reception of certain looks would be. In her now classic 1990 essay, Audre Lorde, writer and activist, asks the question, is your hair still political? Obviously, it hella is. This H&M advertisement became a divisive source of debate for the Black community. On the one hand, some believed that we should leave that Black child alone. The other kids were caught in their natural, uncombed, fresh off the playground, innocent flyaway state. Why shouldn't she? Well, we don't have time for the long answer. That would be a dissertation. I would have to set up a contextual framework for unpacking the racist undertones, the neglect, the history that makes a difference appalling. Alas, we ain't got time for all that. So I will attempt to communicate in an extended Twitter version the reason why the way she appeared was problematic. For starters, we are still coming to terms with accepting natural hair on African American women. America is not making this process easy, with discrimination against natural hair still so strong that recently states have had to pass laws to prevent discrimination. For those who don't know what natural Black hair is, it is hair not subjected to a relaxer or perm. A relaxer is a creamy mixture of really strong chemicals that can actually burn the scalp if applied inappropriately. When I finally grew into my big girl panties and decided not to relax my hair, it was a controversy, a sin, and a shame to many in my circle. I remember when I first got the natural bug, my longtime hairstylist discouraged it. "You'll never get a job," she said. I was petrified to hear this as a recent college graduate in 2000. The prospect of the job search being any harder than it already was with my one-page creatively arranged resume was daunting. I was scared so shitless that it wasn't until 2005 that I decided to finally make the BC, the big chop. In between 2000 and 2005, I made so many hair turns and shifts that BC was a term very fitting for the moment that I had my relaxed hair cut off to 1 inch worth of new growth. Before that moment, I had went from wearing my hair in a long wrap to a short pixie cut, from Black to blonde, then finally the BC. The AD after death of relaxer me was evolved. Because my hair was so short, I had tiny twists that I didn't like when I first started growing them. When I was a teenager, my favorite movie to not like was Hellraiser. And to me, I looked like the main antagonist, Pinhead. I visited my stylist every 2 weeks and got my single strand twists neatly redone until they promptly grew out of that phase. When my hair got too long for single strand twists, I graduated to 2-strand twists. I missed the single strand twists with their straw Shirley Temple curls look. Still, the 2-strand twists grew on me because I could take them out and wear a wavy fro. Then I discovered Curly Nikki, the blog world of natural hair, and the ABC's hair type. It became a thing. Pretty soon, an overwhelming thing. I was delighted with myself when I figured out how to determine my hair type, and I discovered that I was a 4C. Note, she is the angriest looking woman on the slide. I had the kinkiest hair type, with 4 being the last number on the rung. This led to my foray into being a product junkie, trying everything to get my kinky 4C hair to look wavy. It was then that I found the twist out cure. A proliferation of bloggers and YouTubers offered very precise and detailed steps on how to get the perfect twist out. The equation for all things pretty went like this: big tub of product plus wet hair plus twisting for hours times setting dry overnight or blow drying equals the perfect twist out. Pretty simple. Not. But an already simple, not simple process became complicated by the plethora of products that started appearing on shelves. This was the early 2000s, and it was like underground hip hop had went mainstream all over again. Just 10 years before that era, I would be hard pressed to find a co-wash product. Knowing what co-wash even was made me feel like I was part of an insiders club that only the hair bloggers, hip hop's true underground lyricists, knew about. It was a conditioner wash. Drop the conditioner, wash. It was brilliant. Soon though, it lost its light for me when I find naturals asking, how often do you co-wash? The right answer was, only have to co-wash once per week, which you say with curls bouncing and defined. It became clear to me that the frequency of your co-wash indicated how good your hair was. If you were only co-washing once per week, it was because your hair had that naturally buoyant, curly quality that required less water. Here we are, all grown up in past emancipation, back to the house versus the field Negro. The question of the co-wash and the curl buoyancy was always about race, miscegenation, and what you were mixed with to give your hair that good hair look. It was where the term good hair came from for most Black folks, from being mixed with the white man's blood. The whole scenario was problematic. When I decided to lock my hair, I'd had enough. Today, wearing dreadlocks has brought about more commitment to a hairstyle than I'd ever imagined possible for me. Up until my BC in 2005, I had a relaxer for as long as I could remember. I had to have gotten my first perm when I was 6 years old because there isn't a time I remember ever getting it pressed. I grew up going to the salon once per week, and sometimes I would try a different style just because I could. A roller set, a wrap, Shirley Temple curls, finger waves, a bun, a flip. Oh, the fun I had changing my look. I almost got a Jerry curl, Kelechi, in the 80s when they were all the rage, but my relaxed hair made the transition impossible. To go from the freedom of wearing a natural to dreadlocks was a huge step in my hair journey and speaks to all the fatigue I felt. By the time I locked my hair in 2016, I developed extreme twist out fatigue. Here, I exclaimed to my friend picking me up to hang out one day. You're giving me all of this, she asked. It was a tote bag full of different products promising the bounce and buoyancy of a house Negro on my field grade hair. Yes, girl, everything you need to take care of your hair. When my friend accepted my gift of what I know amounted to more than $100 in hair promises, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer going to be a slave to chasing the illusion of the good hair twist out. I was going to gain a time freedom I'd missed for many years. I would write poetry, start my novel, and write essays about my journey. And I want to close this essay with a poem dedicated to the little girl who posed for H&M. I can't help but wonder what she has to say about all this, or what she will one day when she is all grown up. This poem does require audience participation, and I'm inviting my panelists to participate and unmute. When I point to you, you say Ashe. And when I give a number sign, you call out the name of a powerful Black woman in honor of Mother's Day. The poem is called H&M Ashe, for all the little Black girls who didn't get their hair combed at the photo shoot. Stop going there for validation. Put it down, the magazine, the remote, the Facebook page, the IG status, the telephone. OMG, SMH, the phone. That be our cue to teleport to 1990. I was an unstyled child on the playground, but at the end of the day, love was on my edges because we worked way too hard to get this far, to travel across these chain gangs and hot combs, to not glory in a rat tail comb with some water on the tips and a little bit of gel. It's a Black thing, you know. You got to be Black to understand that those be universes in them edges, arrival at a timeline in my hairline. And Madam C.J. Walker, Ashe, panelist, is watching. Rosa Parks
Ashe.
is watching. Coretta Scott King is watching. Ella Baker
Ashe.
is watching. Even Toni Morrison
Ashe.
is watching. And Mama Maya Angelou
Ashe.
and Harriet Tubman.
Ashe.
And participants, you can drop some names in the chat, but who else, who are the other Black mamas, ancestors watching?
June Jordan.
Ashe is watching.
Fannie Lou.
Ashe is watching.
Marguerite Kendrick.
Ashe is watching. All my mamas, all my Black mamas are watching. And the little Black unnamed girl that looks like me is watching. And the girl from 1990, all grown up and writing this poem, is watching. She checking for we, not like they getting a check off we. And the Black mamas don't like what they see. They see the coon on repeat, the mammy, the sapphire, the Jezebel. They see everything, and they see me. Yeah. Thank you for listening, you guys.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. I think I'm up next. Okay. I'm Judy Juanita. I'm an Oakland writer, novelist. My novel is called Virgin Soul. And I also have a book out called De Facto Feminism, Essays Straight Out of Oakland. Okay, good. So I'm gonna title mine Work and Working It. Okay, my grandson, whose picture you see there, all of 18, has been pursued by white girls lately. I want to warn him, even in the 21st century, in cosmopolitan San Francisco, Oakland, that his precious brown body is a war zone. And those love pellets are bullets. But I'm just a grandma, albeit one who knows that the Black body is a war zone and the Black skull a helmet. How one wears the helmet of Black hair is hotly debated in the Black family and community. Appearance and success are intertwined in our population, where Eurocentrism's prized paleness of skin, hair, and eye color retains an oppressive hold, never more so than with Black hair. Success in that crowning is a survival determinant. My examples
of Black women manipulating African hair shows that we take our nappy hair and figure it out. Through trial and error, we have devised ways to fit in, challenge, or adapt since we came to America. We have been in the workforce from Jump Street, in the fields, the big house, the marketplaces, sewing, cooking, planting, harvesting, often keeping our thick, coiled hair under wrap. You know, there were even Negro codes governing our dress and hair in the South in those times. South Carolina had required masters to clothe slaves in accord with the Negro Act of 1735. For the hair, absolutely necessary were sunbonnets. Annual clothing distributions from the plantation owners included palmetto hats and turbans. After emancipation, West African women and African American women combined slave clothing and American styles. So my examples today, hope the slide is running. I don't see it running on my screen, but if not. My examples today are the hair pioneer, Madam C.J. Walker, and my late friend and movie icon, Vonetta McGee, the newscaster, Melba Tolliver, and the Sisters of the Black Panther Party, of which I was one. In each instance, the way our hair grew out of our scalp, its texture was manipulated chemically, with heat, or with the barber's clippers to fit a prevailing societal requirement. To be able to earn one's keep, to be accepted by one's peers, one could not simply pull one's hair back into a ponytail. One had to texturize, clip, press, shape, alter, or risk being fired, shunned, relegated, ostracized, or ignored. Madam C.J. Walker invented the Walker system, which was grooming to promote hair growth and condition the scalp using her shampoo, her pomade, strenuous brushing, and applying heated iron combs to the hair. She never claimed to have invented the hot comb. She widened the fingers of the comb and popularized it by refining it. By 1914, there was enormous competition, even hot comb wars, to address the market of Black women who had to go to work. By 1974, the movie star Vonetta McGee was able to show in the film Thomasine and Bushrod the natural beauty and strength of an unadorned Black woman of the plains, as well as a sophisticated criminal. This film was produced and written by her then partner, Max Julian, but she did her own hair, clothing, and makeup for the project. Stills from the movie show her hair chemically untreated, her nappy edges showing. Max similarly wears the afro. In one still, Vonetta, Max, and Gordon Parks Jr., the director of the film, are at work. She hasn't had to texturize, that is, change her hair. In this film, at one point, Max's character, a bank robber, loses his nerve and Vonetta's character slaps the shit out of him. This is an allusion to Harriet Tubman's famous warning to the escaped slaves who wanted to turn back during the difficult underground journey. Tubman said, "If you turn back, I'll shoot you." Vonetta starred in To Sleep with Anger, the film by Charles Burnett, another Black auteur. She's letting her edges in the clip show the way her hair grows naturally. She's not masquerading gelled down baby hair, which is the current fashion that is used to evoke a mixed racial heritage and trash the African heritage. She was working with these unsung Black directors who were conscious of the Black cultural legacy they were building. In a PR photo for Blackula, she wears a short natural for the role she got after one of her bouts with cancer. She had lost her hair to cancer treatments and told me that when it grew back, she intended to never wear it short again. She didn't prefer it, but at the moment, it served her well in her career. In Clint Eastwood's The Iger Sanction, she was back at work, working for the Hollywood studios, and she was back to wigs. White actors wear wigs as a matter of course. However, their wigs mimic the texture and shape of their natural hair. Black actors were required to have hair like whites, unlike their own, which is a form of cultural denial, to put it lightly, oppression to give it a harsher name. This adherence to white hairstyling also promulgated employment discrimination against Black hairstylists who were non-entities in the industry. These barriers are breaking down. So Black hair and economics intricately connected too. In 1971, Melba Tolliver's hairdo and afro got her fired from WABC New York. In an interview, she said, "The day before I was supposed to cover Tricia Nixon's wedding at the White House, I got my hair changed to a natural. Previously, I'd been having it straightened. And can you believe they actually told me I couldn't appear live in the studio unless I changed my hair back to the way it used to look. They said I looked less attractive, less feminine, but it was their standard of femininity, not mine," she said. She refused to straighten her hair, and as an ABC on-air talent, she was toast. In the 1960s, in the Black Panther Party, many women, including myself, who you'll see at the age of 21 in this black and white dress, always somehow, I was wearing that a lot then. We wore the natural, the afro, and we were often photographed at rallies, protests, and events. We braided it at night for length and sway. It had to be carefully shaped by barbers, and we patted it down each day before spraying it to hold it in place. A helmet is a protective gear worn to protect the head and the brain. The afro was more than ceremonial or symbolic. It was akin to helmets worn by police, hazmat workers, astronauts, pilots, workers facing dangerous conditions. The national unprecedented hunt for Angela Davis after the prisoner escape and courthouse killings of George and Jonathan Jackson and others in 1970 in Northern California showed this. The FBI put a whole nation on alert, giving permission to anyone to profile, harass, and arrest Black women with naturals. Presently, the Black lesbian community has taken the battle to new levels. Kinsey Clark says, in Black lesbian communities, cultural aesthetic standards are the driving force behind our signifiers, locks, fades, high quality wigs, and natural hairstyles. They are our calling cards. So the struggle and the use of Black hair as a weapon in the fight for justice continues. The Black woman historically has not been afraid of showing who she is ethnically, but she's had to be careful where and when to be courageous. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We actually have time for some questions. let's see if there's any in the chat. And I don't know if I can check the Q&A or if Tess has to do that. No open questions. Okay. Oh, okay. Got it. Questions? Don't be shy. You can ask a question. You can do it.
Or comment, I just want to comment on, like, even though I heard all of you guys' essays at AWP, I still got something new out of it. And I see a lot of thematic connections in our experience. So for the participants, we didn't like know what each other was writing about, but I noticed that we all mentioned the hot comb.
Yes.
We all mentioned, a couple people mentioned Shirley Temple. It's just amazing how that American icon, you know, influenced all of us to want those curly curls. What else did you guys notice? See, Madam C.J. Walker.
Oh, that's right. Quite a few people mentioned Madam C.J. Walker. Judy, you're muted.
Rachel says everybody mentioned the workplace.
Okay.
Judy, you're on mute. I see you trying to speak.
We all are. Am I there yet? Okay. We all mentioned the ear, you know, and getting burned at the top of the ear. That was just that was a common experience, and I noticed at AWP at that point in the presentation, many members in the audience who were Black women related very profoundly to that experience of getting your ear burnt for this straightened hair.
Yes.
I think there was just kind of a conversation in all of the pieces about reclaiming beauty and redefining it for ourselves, and that was a personal journey, but it definitely came up in each essay.
Rachel says in the chat that everyone mentioned problems and struggles in their workplace or with careers, academia, which I think we all did as well. Very, very common, unfortunately, even today. Here's a question from Rachel. How are the young generation of women reacting to all this?
I've seen, so I taught high school English for 10 years, and I've seen a mix. I know students who would tell me like they felt free to wear their natural hair because they would see me doing it. And then I also remember the last year I taught full time, so it had to be like 2017. For the senior pictures, this like broke my heart. For senior pictures, 95% of the girls got these long flowing weaves because to them that's what like beauty looks like. And I remember having like multiple conversations with them because they're like, we can wear weave and stuff, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with wearing weave. The issue that I personally took was like, you think that you're only beautiful if you do this, and like that is a thing. So that's my experience.
Oh,
and I've always said, why are all the weaves down all the way to your back? The familiar reply is always, because I paid for it.
Pay the extra money.
Here's another question here. This one says, this is from Rowan Julie. I'm a fantasy author, and my main character is a Black woman knight who goes through a lot of natural hair changes. Which hairstyles would you want to see on her? Fantasy author. My preference
like, what's practical when you're a knight? What would you
need?
Cornrows? Like, what would be a thing you could keep up? So I'm just thinking in the practical sense. But
well, is she going to be wearing headgear?
The short kind of like transitional twists come to mind. One, because they're practical, but it also it's like probably a period in time that a lot of people can relate to. Like I remember when my twists were like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tess is mentioning that many of us talked about people touching our hair, which is extremely, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember posting about that recently, and someone just did not believe me. They were like, it was a white man, and he was just like, I can't believe people still like in this. I was like, yes, still people make shirts. Like, it's like, do you think I'm a dog that you can pet? It's I'm like, oh, I see your hand. Don't. Or even people who have become friendly with you and they feel like they know you. And I had someone, well, my other friend let me do it, and I was like, I don't even. Ooh, I'm not gonna. We're all individuals.
That's right.
Yeah, someone put in the chat. It's like pregnant women in their bellies. Like, just do it.
Where does Michelle Obama come into the narrative? Has there been a lot of discussion about her choices in the Black community?
We love Michelle Obama. She can do no wrong.
Seriously, I think she was surviving, like, and trying to thrive, like in some serious hostile situations where she had to be the best of everything. So like, I don't know. I kind of put her in a different category.
I haven't heard discussions about her, and I think even if she didn't like necessarily wear braids or like other diverse styles, she allowed her daughters to do so. And so there's like articles and things about people's backlash toward them, which I think is representative of her taking ownership of our choices.
Yep.
Those are great questions, you guys. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
For me, it feels so just, heartwarming to be seen and heard as a Black woman and seeing other people interested in our experience.
Agreed. Thank you, India. Billy.
All right, I think we can wrap up. It's 11:15 exactly.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.